everything New Orleans Pelicans from a fan's perspective. 27 points, 5 rebounds. Welcome to Pelicans Flock Report, where I give you everything New Orleans Pelicans from a fan's perspective. I'm your host, D. Broussard. The Pelicans' problem isn't talent, it's identity. Now, the Pelicans have struggled to find an identity this season, trying to figure out what type of team they want to be. Do they want to be a defensive team, a fast-paced offensive team? What do the Pelicans want to be? And I feel like that's going to be the main thing that they're going to have to figure out going into the offseason is finding an identity. And we have to find our identity if we're going to make the postseason. Most teams that I'm watching right now in the playoffs, they all have an identity as a team, and they know who they are when they step on the basketball court each and every night. Now, a lot of talent, no direction. That's the problem with the Pelicans right now, is that we have a lot of talent, but we have no direction. And the Pelicans have a lot of pieces, but it seems to me that they just don't gel well together. We saw that throughout the season as many games, we had double digits in turnovers, a lot of ill-advised plays, things of that nature. So we have a lot of pieces, but it seems that these pieces that we have on this current roster right now, they just didn't fit well together throughout the season. So we have to retool the roster and build a team of guys that's going to fit well together, have chemistry on the basketball court, and have the opportunity to find an identity. Now, the Pelicans are not a true contender, and they're not rebuilding either, which it kind of leaves us in the middle, because most of the time when a team has no direction, they normally go in rebuild mode. As I said before, sometimes I kind of feel like maybe we need to hand the keys over to the young guys and start maybe rebuilding this team and going in a different direction. But then when you look at a lot of the star guys that we have, they're all really good. They're all playing really great. They played great throughout the season. Obviously, not having DeJounte Murray for most of the season really hurt us this season. But I kind of still see where the team is going as far as possibly retooling the roster, because we do have some good pieces. We just have to find other complementary guys to complement the good pieces and make them all coexist so we can have an identity on the basketball court. Zion versus everyone else fit. I feel like that's always been the problem since Zion was drafted to the Pelicans in 2019, is trying to find the right guys to complement Zion Williamson's game and the way that he likes to play. And I feel like we've had teams, in my opinion, when it comes to, having Brandon Ingram, CJ McCullough, that team, especially that 2022 team that I spoke about, um, making the playoffs that season, going up against the Suns. I felt like that team was built really well, and I felt like the only missing piece on that team would have been Zion, which he was injured that year. And I felt like if he was healthy, I felt like that team had a really good chance to compete, in my opinion. Now, some argue that Brandon Ingram and Zion just didn't play well together. I mean, at times I can't say that I saw that. Um, I felt like, in my opinion, I felt like they played okay together, but uh analysts and things of that nature, they felt like it wasn't a good fit. So I feel like we have to find pieces that's gonna fit well around Zion. And I feel like the Orlando Magic, they're kind of going through the same exact thing, trying to find guys that fit well around a player who doesn't really space the floor much, doesn't have a three-point shot, He mainly plays around the perimeter or plays around the rim, and you have to have space to allow that guy to operate. But then you have to surround a player like that with shooting for when that player is double teamed, he can kick it out to a shooter and he can make the shot and be able to create offense off of a guy like that. And I feel like Orlando's going through the same thing currently with a guy like Paolo Banchero, trying to find the right pieces that fit around a player like Paolo Banchero. And I feel the Pelicans are trying to do the same thing as well with a player that plays like Zion, trying to find the right pieces that fit well around Zion. Now, uh, the roster that we currently have, it doesn't really provide that, in my opinion. And I feel like the Pelicans often get away from playing through Zion. We don't really play through Zion like talking about it. I've said that numerous times. And I feel like it's times when we should play through Zion, especially when he has a, a mismatch nightmare and he's just taking advantage of whoever's guarding him. We need to keep feeding him. And sometimes we get away from that. We start playing more guard play and perimeter ball and not really feeding Zion the way we should and allow him to get buckets and do what he does. Um, and also at times with this current roster, the team looks completely different without Zion on the basketball court. And I feel like that's where that fit come in. We have to try to find out if we're going to keep Zion now because it's been said that Zion's not going anywhere. So if we're going to keep him, as I've been saying, we have to find the right pieces to fit with Zion Williamson if he's going to be the cornerstone of the team. Also, no defined number one option. We still don't have a defined number one on this team, in my opinion. I feel like throughout the season, at times it was looked at as Trey Murphy might be the number one option in late game situations. Then you still have Zion that's considered the franchise player, who at times I don't really feel like he's a number one option, as I just said. And then sometimes you see Sadiq Bey that might be looked at as a number one option. DeJounte Murray, Jeremiah Fears. I mean, we still don't have a defined number one option on this team, and we have to figure that out. Um, Mainly because if Zion is supposed to be the franchise player, then he needs to be the number one option. You know, Trey Murphy is not the franchise player, in my opinion. Um, and a lot of times that leads to inconsistent and late game confusion, inconsistency and late game confusion. So and I feel like that's been the problem as well. It's like a lot of games we lost this season came from inconsistencies and not having a defined number one guy, not being able to close in the fourth quarter. We lost a lot of close games, not being able to close in the fourth quarter. And that comes from us not really knowing or having a defined number one option. Most good teams, they have a defined number one option, like the Minnesota Timberwolves. You know, Anthony Edwards is going to be the number one option. They're going to find a way to get the ball in Anthony Edwards' hands in late game situations to close out a basketball game. Coaching and system. Now, I've always said I'm big on coaching, I'm big on systems. I feel like coaching really matters in any sport, and that's something that we're going to have to figure out. Obviously, James still has the interim head coach tag on his name. We're said to be going on a coaching search. So coaching and system matters. And we don't really have a consistent offensive system right now. I feel like we went with a lot of different lineups this season. Sometimes we went big, sometimes we went small. Jordan Poole was in and out of the lineup this season. Um, Obviously, James started going with the small ball lineup a little bit, but I kind of said before I didn't really care for the small ball lineup because, yeah, it might be a little bit better on the offensive side, but when you go small, you lose rim protection, you lose rebounding, and most teams that I see today, I don't really see them going small like talking about it. You even have teams that go with two bigs at times. So I feel like a lot of teams are starting to go back to playing the bigs, not really much small ball. Now, you might see small ball lineups maybe like throughout the game, as far as coaching and stuff, coaches switch things up depending on, what the other coach is doing just to kind of match up. But for the most part, you see bigs on the basketball court in the NBA today, in my opinion. And the team, like I said, they don't really have defined responsibility as well. Like a lot of guys still don't know their responsibilities on the basketball team. Like, I'm gonna be the sixth man. I'm gonna be the defensive stopper. I'm gonna be the main guy. I'm gonna be this. I'm gonna be that. Like most of the guys on the team that we have right now, they still don't really have defined responsibilities. They don't really know what are their uh roles each and every game. And that's something that we have to establish as well with coaching and system. We have to figure out who is going to do what, who role is this, who role is that. You see that with a lot of other teams as well. Guys know their roles. They know, okay, I'm going to be the defensive stopper. I'm going to be a 3-and-D guy. I'm going to be a glue guy. I'm going to be the rebounder. I'm going to be the facilitator. You know, guys know their roles in the league on all good teams. And that's something that we're going to have to figure out as well. Now, currently, inconsistency is our identity. That's really our identity right now. Inconsistency. We saw the uh, broadcast press conference with Joe Dumars where he talked about inconsistency a lot because I just felt like the Pelicans were just inconsistent this entire season. And I said it before, I never really felt like the Pelicans were going to go to the playoffs just because of that reason, the inconsistency. And inconsistency is our identity right now. And uh, we have times where we beat good teams, just like we had a good game against the Minnesota Timberwolves with all of their guys on the floor, and we were able to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. But then we might turn around and lose to a team that's not really that good. And also, um, we go on winning streaks. Like we had the 5-game winning streak, 4-game winning streak. We go on winning streaks, and then we go on a 7-game losing streak. So I feel like with the Pelicans team, it's like we never know who's gonna show up on the basketball court each and every game. And I felt like that a lot this season. I never knew what type of team was gonna show up in each game. I didn't know if they were gonna get off to a good start. I didn't know if they were gonna get off to a bad start. I didn't know if they were gonna play well from behind the arc or go 5 for 35 from behind the arc. It's just I never knew what type of team was gonna show up each game. And I feel like that's where the inconsistencies come in. You know, just not really knowing what type of team you're gonna get, when you watch them play. So right now, like I said, inconsistency is our identity, and we definitely have to change that going into the off season and going forward. We got to figure out if we're going to be a defensive team that's getting after it, playing tough, defending tough, or are we going to be strictly offense, which you really can't be strictly offense. And I feel like with James Borrego is more of an offensive coach, and that's always been his knock is he never really build consistent defensive teams. They're good on offense. They're going to play fast pace. They're going to make shots, but they don't really have the defensive efficiency that you have to have to win basketball games in the NBA today. Like you have to defend. Um, and also I just feel like I said, talent has never been the problem with the Pelicans. I just think that clarity is. We just don't have clarity and know who we are as a basketball team, but we have the talent, obviously, but like I said as well, talent doesn't always produce winning product. You have to have fit as well, guys that fit, even if they're not the most talented guys, they just fit well with what you're doing. So talent is, in my opinion, is only a small percentage of what builds a contender and a winning basketball team. And I feel like until we find an identity, nothing is really going to change with this team. We're always going to be mediocrity on the basketball court, and we're always going to be, you know, at the bottom of the Western Conference until we find an identity. So we definitely have to find our identity. And hopefully, Joe Dumars and Charles Weaver, as I've been saying, hopefully they can get it right. And, they got to nail this coaching search, though. They got to nail this. This is like very important. Like, they're going to have to nail the coaching situation this season because we can't keep firing and hiring coaches. We just can't, man. Like, every season, it seems like I read comments, under the Pelicans Instagram and things of that nature, and I see all the fans saying, "Oh, let's fire this guy. Let's hire this guy. Let's go get this guy." And it's just like we have to understand as fans, like we can't keep firing and hiring coaches. Like we can't give a guy one season and then say, "Oh, well, we need to go get this guy," or "Oh, I don't like him. I need to go. We need to hire this guy. We need to fire him." That's not how chemistry is built on the basketball court by constantly firing and hiring coaches. It's just not gonna happen. We're always gonna stay mediocre because we keep implementing different systems every season. So we can't keep doing that. So if we're not gonna go with James Borrego, we're gonna have to nail this coaching search. We're gonna have to find the right guy that we need going forward for at least the next 5 years. So we don't have to keep firing and hiring coaches because I feel like the longer we keep doing that, we're never gonna get over the hump. So I get the fans' frustration, but it's like we gotta stop with the fire this guy, fire. Oh, I don't like him. We gotta. It's like no, man. Like we need a stable coach. We can't keep firing and hiring guys after one season. Like we'll never be good, and that's just my opinion. So yeah, man. Like always, make sure you like and subscribe. That's it for me. I appreciate everybody for watching. Shout out to everybody that's already subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate y'all. And as long as y'all keep subscribing, I'm going to keep on dropping this content. Make sure you turn your notifications on. Check out the channel as well. I have more videos that's posted. So, yeah, man, I appreciate y'all, man. And like always, man, I'm out, man. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Pelicans Flock Report. I'm your host, D. Broussard. I'm out.